everyone. I am so glad to be here, so glad to be showing you guys a few different things. We are going to be going over just a few things to be keeping those muscles engaged and keeping those muscles conditioned for whenever we get back into our tumbling class, right? So, to give you a little bit of a taste, we are going to go over handstands, and then we're going to go over a few drills for that. We're going to go over cartwheels and round-offs if you have enough space and cushion for that. And then we're going to go over a few things that I want you to keep in mind, but we're not going to do in our homes because it's a little too impact and a little too dangerous, right? So, but before we go into any of that, before we do our skills and things like that, we always warm up, right? So, the first thing you want to do to warm up is warm up these, all your leg muscles and things like that, right? So we had an awesome tutorial just let out about splits and things like that. So if you guys remember, which you should because we do it every class, we do lunges and nose to knee and things like that, stretches for the beginning of class. So to give you a little bit of an example, you start here, making sure that your foot is as far as it can go into a 90-degree position. And then from there, don't move your foot and go right here, straighten your leg and put your nose to your knee right here. And then from there, you're sliding out into your splits, right? And then you do that same thing on the other leg. And then your second warm-up is your bridge. So make sure for your bridge that you are either one, you're at the stage where you can push up from the ground. And while you're doing that, make sure that you are pushing your hips up to the ceiling and you are pushing up with both your legs and your arms to make sure that you are not putting too much pressure on either one of those muscle groups. If you are at the stage where you can push up and then kick over, make sure that as you're in your bridge, you are pushing up here and then you're pushing your armpits as far over your hands. I'm using one hand to example. Far over your hands as you can before you kick over, right? And then if you are at the point where you're walking over, make sure you're doing all of those things while as you're falling from your standing position into your bridge, that you're pushing your hips into the wall in front of you. That way you're not getting the wrong position while you're falling down, right? Okay, so, and then from after that, in order to warm up, if you want to do some wall sits, make sure that when you sit against the wall, you are at a 90-degree position and you're pushing your back into the wall to keep those muscles engaged, right? And then to stretch your arms out a little bit more from that bridge position, you can pull your arms over here. You can make sure that you're doing this. Make sure you're pushing your shoulder down and then switch arms, things like that, yeah? Awesome, so now that we're warmed up, we are going to do our first handstand drills, right? So for your handstand drills, you can do one of four things. You can, one, climb up from this position where you're facing the wall and going here and holding it for about 5 to 10 seconds and then take a rest and do it again. Second thing is you can go up against the wall facing away from the wall and do the same thing, hold it for 5 to 10 seconds. So you start here, you kick up, and you hold it for 5 to 10 seconds and then come down. The third thing is you do the same thing as that, but then you do your shoulder taps for your walking, right? So you push up here, and then you tap your shoulders, just like that. You can do that about 10 sets of those or less, it just depends on where you are, and then come down, yeah? And then last thing is you can just hold your handstand in place off the wall, right? So here, point those toes, keep those legs together, and hold it for as long as you can, right? Okay, then we are going to go over the correct positions for a cartwheel and for a round off so you can do it at home. So the correct position for a cartwheel looks like this, and then I'll explain a little more after. So less, it just depends on where you are, and then come down, yeah? And then last thing is you can just hold your handstand in place off the wall, right? So here, point those toes, keep those legs together, and hold it for as long as you can, right? Okay, then we are going to go over the correct positions for a cartwheel and for a round off so you can do it at home. So the correct position for a cartwheel looks like this, and then I'll explain a little more after. So if you watch, my hips start here, rotate out into an open position, and then come back to a closed position in the opposite direction. Make sure that you're pointing your toes all the way through as soon as they come up until they come down. Make sure that you end here in a pretty position. Don't end here or whatever. Make sure it's in a pretty position. And yeah, those are the three main components that you want to make sure that you're paying attention to while you do your cartwheels, yeah? And then if you have enough space and cushion for a round off, make sure that, I'll give you an example and then explain a little more, yeah? So here is a round off. Yeah, awesome. So make sure that you are pulling your legs together when they are in a straight up and down position, not to the left, not to the right, straight up and down, right? And then make sure that you are pushing through those shoulders. Make sure, I've shown you guys pushing right here. Make sure you're not using only hands whenever you're pushing off the ground to end in that round off position, yeah? Awesome. So, that was awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Make sure that you are keeping those muscle groups super engaged, and if you guys want something to do, this is an awesome, awesome thing to do inside or outside, wherever you have space or are able to do it. And thank you so much for joining me. I'll see y'all soon.